I'm going to ask you, you're a new agent, you want to get started. What steps should they take?
Stop believing you're a new agent. So therefore, it's easy that just simply this, and everybody can write this down because this is really how easy this business. Conversations equal contracts. I start every day at my desk writing down 3 or 4 things I'm blessed about. They change every single day.
We know all real estate agents want to acquire clients consistently so that they can grow their business and income for that great lifestyle. This broadcast brings you the best and top people in the industry to support that quest. This is Dave Fanale, and I'm here to bring you the Real Estate Skill Builder broadcast, Real Estate Talk-TGIF, brought to you by Real Estate Skill Builder and Align, your premier real estate solution.
Hey, welcome everybody back. Here we are. It's Friday, May 1st, May Day. And if anybody doesn't know what that means, look it up because it's got a lot of different things about labor and about needing help and everything else. And I kind of looked that up this morning. I thought it was pretty interesting. Anyway, today we have David Thompson. He just didn't walk into real estate. He actually came from the U.S. Navy in a combat role to the real estate business. He used the same level of discipline and into business where most people struggle just to stay consistent. David went on to personally sell over 300 homes a year, built brokerages, teams, built businesses most people would call a career, and then did what almost nobody really has the guts to do. He started over. He didn't just rebuild, he scaled over 1,000 transactions in just a few years. And that's not just hype. That's someone who understands his business. Now as a team leader coach, a team coach with Coach Pipe's G3 coaching, he's working with leaders who want more than just production. They want real business that actually runs without them. He's direct. He's disciplined. He's about what works and not what's that just sounds good. Let's go, man. This is David Thompson. Thank you for being here today.
My pleasure, Dave.
So I'm all excited today about how you got into business and how you started doing it, what you did, and because I was a broker owner for a number of years, and I know the trials and tribulations we go through, and teams or something like that. But before we get into that, David, I have a question I have to ask you because I ask everybody that joins this broadcast over the 400 people, over the 400 episodes that we've done. We've had several times. The question is, what does TGIF stand for?
Thank goodness it's Friday.
That's a really good answer, and that's the one most people would think. But today, it doesn't mean that. It means thank God it's finale, and it's just because it's my broadcast, my show. That's what it is. I didn't plan it that way.
We'll go with that.
Anyway,
awesome,
David. Welcome. You've got a great journey. You've got a great story. And we don't really need to get into the depths of it. I'd like to a point because I want people to understand that, there's skills involved that you have taken from day one to here. Tell us about your journey and how it's made you be able to do the things like starting over and everything else. Tell us about your journey.
Oh, we'll go back to the Navy. So I was in the Navy. Served in the Persian Gulf, got out of active duty in the Persian Gulf in 90, and then I served in the reserves for about 8 years afterwards. Got hired as an air traffic controller, Dave, and while I'm waiting for my security clearance, which I already had in the military, 6 months later, I decided to just get my real estate license, sold a bunch of houses, and decided to turn down that air traffic controlling job. So it's like, we all have those whys in our life. That was like where it could have gone that way or could have gone that way. And I decided to go into real estate. Was selling a fair amount of houses at the time. 36 houses a year was a lot back in the early 90s. And met a gentleman named Mike Ferry. And went to Mike Ferry and seen somebody else selling real estate at very high levels. I believe it was Karen Bernardi back in the day. And I said I was going to sell 100 homes the next year, hit 117. And the year after, I was selling 300 homes a year, just listings myself. And I wasn't counting the buyer side. I had somebody else do that. So sold 300 listings, and I think it was year 93 or so. But I've done several different things. I'm in the mortgage business. I started mortgages in 95. And mortgage and title and real estate, realized ancillaries, and realized that, if you're the head of the octopus, you have 8 tentacles, right? You have income coming in
Yep.
from different sources. So I started embracing that theory. Fast forward when I sold my Remax offices in Jacksonville, Florida, decided I was married to my wife who was in Michigan, and she said, I'd like to have my husband locally, and so I decided to move back to Michigan, move to Kalamazoo, Michigan. Said I was going to build a team that sells 1,000 houses a year in 36 months from 0 transactions, 0 agents, and was able to do that. Hired 72 agents in that 36 months. Average agent production was a little over 18 transactions. Brought that team to 1,000 transactions, and then in the just over 4 years into it, brought it over 2,000 transaction. And Dave, on Wednesday this week, I was able to sell that company. And so I was able to sell, which I enjoyed building and selling. So I built the company and sold that company, and I'm on off to other endeavors at this point. But that's kind of the quick rundown of 35 years. And I know you have more than 35 years, Dave, which I really appreciate. There's not too many of us that have actually stayed in real estate for 35 plus years, right?
That is true. That is true. David, I don't know. There's a lot of people that can relate that'll watch this. And I got to ask you this question. And I forgot to ask this the other day because we were talking about this or selling the team and stuff. You and I are two different people, completely different. And I remember the day and the day after I walked away. I call it walking away because I made a decision to sell my brokerage. There was this strange feeling. And in my instance, you really didn't tell anybody what you were doing until it happened, right? Was that the same thing with you?
No, actually, I don't get too excited about things, and I don't get too down on things. I don't get too stressed, or everything's a process. And I really think overall we overestimate what we can do in short period of times, but we underestimate what we can do over a long period of time. I always had intentions of selling the company. It ended up selling it, Dave, a little earlier than I anticipated, which is fine. But I have some other businesses like Engagify Marketing. That's my marketing company. I run a mortgage branch at Premier Mortgage Team. I'm a coach, which is my true passion. I'm a coach with Bill Pipes. I do that and some other businesses. So it was one of the businesses that I was able to sell. Hey, who knows? I might start another real estate team somewhere else in the country. So having fun with the idea, I guess.
You will. I honestly believe that you will. Anyway, okay. So I want to ask that question as a side. So I want to get into something. You went from 36 your first year and decided that you wanted to sell 100 the next year. Okay. And you did 117. Those were days cell phones were just coming into use for the most part. Are
you going to date us?
What's that?
Are you going to date us here? I think you
are. I
am
dating us. Yes, I absolutely am. Because there's a point to this, right?
Sure.
The point of the question is I'll jump to the question is, could you do it? Can you do that today? And is it easier today? Would you do it? Would an agent do it differently going from, let's say, look, 10 homes, someone sells 10 homes in certain markets, that's a great income. Someone sells 10 homes in certain markets, that's not enough. So let's just use 10 to 30 and then from 30 to 100. You did it with discipline. I'm going to say that you have the skill of discipline. I'm just going to guess that. How would you do it today? And can it be done today in the time period that you did it?
Oh, the answer is definitely yes. But there's a lot I'll unpack there, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
First of all, you mentioned sales prices, right? So, California sale prices are obviously higher than they are in Michigan, and agents sell more in Michigan than they do in California, but people are people, right?
Yes.
So what we find often, Dave, most people will perform to their needs, to their comfort, right? They're often more motivated because I have a house payment and I have to make my house payment versus what they're trying to accomplish. So when you look at somebody in California selling less houses than you sell in Michigan is because they reach a certain point they're comfortable. There's always this old joke in sales in general. If you want to sell more real estate, buy a bigger house, buy a big new truck, et cetera, you have more bills and therefore you sell. The real successful people that I've had the privilege of meeting over all these years understand that they don't get motivated by their needs. They understand they have their needs. They get motivated by their desires. So it's what we're trying to accomplish. And when somebody asks me, they say, Dave, I want to set my goal at 30 transactions. Well, 30 transactions to me is not a goal. What the 30 transactions do for you is a goal. And what I mean by that, if I'm going to send my kids to private school, or I'm going to homeschool, I'm going to pay off my house, I'm going to put some money in retirement, I'm going to, whatever that is, if we embrace what we're trying to accomplish and understand that the business is getting us there, I think the biggest motivation factor that a lot of people miss is knowing why they're doing something. When they're set their goals, they're saying transactions, and that's not a goal. That's not a motivation. How do I motivate myself to get up and do what I need to do if I want to sell 30 houses? Yeah, there could be motivation, but if I'm trying to pay off my house, homeschool my kids, et cetera, that's where motivation comes from. And we talk about discipline. I was in the military, right?
Yep.
Discipline is something we think about. We discipline our children. Generally speaking, the word discipline is not a fun word.
Right.
However, discipline comes from motivation, and motivation comes from the why. So when I'm working with people and we're building that business plan, we're actually building it on the why, and then we're backwards engineering the whole thing into how many transactions, and then quite frankly, right down to the month, the week, the day, what we need to do in our behaviors to reach the why. So here's another thing. I'll just throw this out there. I think overall, Dave, we overcomplicate this business way too much.
I agree.
So in real estate, if you said to me, Dave, hey, I sold an X amount of houses last year. Well, I would say to you, potentially this question, if you would have had twice as many conversations, if you would have talked to twice as many people, past clients, sphere of influence, if leads, et cetera, would you have sold twice as many houses? So therefore, it's easy that just simply this, and everybody can write this down because this is really how easy this business. Conversations equal contracts. Conversations equal contracts. If the more conversations you have, the more contracts. If you're buying those conversations, you're doing open houses, you're prospecting, lead follow-up, more conversations you can have equal more contracts you're going to write.
So I like to look at it the same way. I just changed the words a little bit. The more contacts you have, the more contracts you will get, because when you have those contacts, your objective is to build a relationship. And that R in that word relationship, if you add that to contacts, it equals contracts. Corny, yeah. I know, but
no, same thing, right?
If you think about it. All right. So I want to talk about these conversations, and one of the things I think we talked about the other day was lead generation, and everybody has the way that's going to work for them. Okay. Having those conversations. Look, you found Mike Ferry, and Mike Ferry is around. His script book is very famous. Tom Ferry has taken the script book and made it his own. Bill Pipes has taken that script book and made it his own. Matter of fact, I really love what Bill's done with that script book and his scripts and
Absolutely.
stuff. And the most important thing I think there is to take those scripts and make them your own. I'm saying all this because those script books a lot of times are meant for the phone, right? And we're seeing with technology, there's changes in our telecommunication process, changes in our telecommunication possibilities, and how we're being blocked by getting through and talking to people. There's a lot of people talking about, screw the calls. I hate making phone calls. Go out on social media. Now we have to find something, as we've discussed, that works for you. Now, those conversations that we have to have either by phone or by social media, it's a completely different process to get noticed. The phone, is it dead or is it still alive?
Well, the phone's definitely
ask that question.
Yes, the phone is definitely still alive. I think we get too hung up in this is the way it needs to be done. Because like even on my team or clients that I work with, right, we figure out what you're comfortable with, what you want to, how you want to get there, right? So on the company just recently, so the Michigan top producers, there's the person on the team that she's in her mid-20s and she sells over 100 homes a year. She does it from networking and social media. And then there's plenty of people that get on the phone and call expireds and for sale by owners and set appointments every single day. There's people that do door knocking. Business comes from three places. It comes from prospecting, and the definition of prospecting is reaching out to new people, having new conversations that expand your business. It comes from lead follow-up, which is your past clients, your sphere of influence, and quite frankly, your database, right? Could be leads, et cetera.
Yep.
And the other one is marketing. And those three things should be, at least an agent that's starting off, they should have a balanced approach in all three of those. They should be prospecting every day. They should do lead follow-up every day, and they should do some type of marketing. But how we get the business is just planning it out and executing. Now, if you said, hey, I want to do it by social media, and you're saying that you want to sell 20 houses a year, if we're at the end of the quarter and you haven't sold 5 houses yet, we have to figure out what needs to be added or no, it needs to be changed, right?
Right.
So, but there's so many ways to get business. Business is really, quite frankly, very easy to get.
It's
In
easy.
most areas, it's easy to get. Most areas, like if you're in California, it's probably 1 out of every 15 people are moving every year. Maybe it's 1 out of 17, about 5 to 7%. Michigan, we're about probably 1 out of every 10 people that move, because we have a little higher percentage. About 10% of the people move every year. Well, that means, Dave, I just need to talk to 10 people. I'm going to have a conversation with somebody that's interested in moving sometime this year.
Okay, so I'm gonna hinge on, and what I like to do, David, is I like to be annoying to a point about different things that I know that I'm hearing from agents that is what their roadblocks, and a lot of roadblocks is, I must have made 100 and 150 dials today. I talked to 3 people. I don't know what to do. I need a deal, and how am I going to do that when no one answers their phone?
Well, it depends on if they're prospecting and lead follow-up. I'll throw that out there. If they're prospecting, they may want to, and just it's something that it's very effective, just a technique, is you use a cell phone and you change your cell phone number every so many days, probably once a month, because after you make so many calls, if you're using a cell phone, the cell phone gets spammed. So when I hear somebody making that many calls and only getting that many contacts, my first instinct would come up there on a spam list. And it's simply having some type of technology changing that number would have a greater amount. 150 calls to 3 contacts. And quite frankly, Dave, that's why we track everything.
Right.
Because you can't figure the problem out if you're not tracking it, right? But that's where just my instinct goes. That's a very low pickup rate for that many calls, right? And calls are the attempts. We really care about the contacts. But if they're doing that in an hour and they're getting 3 contacts an hour, right? So let's just talk about, we're really getting in the weeds here, but this is good.
Yeah.
Typically speaking, if you're, for example, geo calling, it's going to take you 80 contacts to develop a sale. That's typically what that number is.
Right.
Well, if we're dividing 3 contacts per hour in there, you're looking at 30, 60, you're looking, about 30 hours of phone work to get a sale. Well, take how much you make on a sale and divide it by 30 and figure how much you're getting paid per hour. Those still are not that bad numbers, right? Those are good numbers.
Those are good numbers. The REO in this business is crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
Without a question.
Basically,
Yeah.
we're just talking about, we've heard this time and time again. It's a numbers game. You've got to make the calls. You've got to do the reps. You've got to talk to the people. You've got to get out there and you've got to mix it up, so to speak. That was what you did in the very beginning, and that's what you coach and teach now, right? So is there anything that's really changed?
Well, the 3 things that we have control over, right? So we have control over our attitude. Every single day, we have control over the attitude, how we approach our business. We have control over our schedule. And our schedule is the system. It's like most of your schedule should be built on having conversations, right? And the third thing that we have control over is our skill. So it's your attitude, your schedule, and your skill. Those are the main things that we have control of. Somebody has a schedule where they're making a lot of contacts, but they don't have the skills. Somebody hasn't worked with them on the skills. They're not going to be as successful, right? Somebody has huge skills, but they're not making the contacts. They're not going to be as successful, and the attitude adds. So those things have never changed, and they never will change.
Right.
Attitude, schedule, and skills.
Okay, so let's get right to, is it a positive attitude one needs? Is it just an attitude that this is your job, this is your business, this is what you're going to do? And when you talk about that, you also have to talk about, okay, so this is what your schedule should look like. So how do those two work together And then the skill part I'll hit in a second, but we need a schedule. So our attitude has a lot to do with our schedule and what we're willing to do and what we're not willing to do. A lot of people call calling and prospecting on a regular basis. They call it what they call it, boredom. I forget what the word was, but it's something you do that's boring that you keep doing. Repetitious boredom is what people have called it. So your schedule is important. So how many hours, minutes should you be prospecting? Should you be on the phone? Basically, David, what should your schedule look like if you're an agent just getting going?
Well, it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. So it goes back to that goal. So we figure out what you're trying to, if I come up with when I start working with a client, by the way, I'm going to figure out what they want to accomplish over 3 to 4 years. And we're going to figure out what that dollar amount is. And we're going to divide it into how many transactions. And we're going to figure out how many transactions per year. And then we're going to build a business plan on what percentage listings and what percentage is buyers. And we're going to bring it right down to where the business is coming from. And when we do that, we can say, this is how many hours you need to spend in this activity. So it really depends on what they're trying to accomplish. But here's a really good thing. So if you'd write down A, B, C, D.
Okay.
A, B, C, D. Okay. So we know that when we're doing the things that we're supposed to do, these are the things we're earning money at, right? So
Right.
A, think of this as like an attorney. Your A is your billable hours. So your billable hours in real estate is negotiating contracts. That's an A. And the third one is when I'm on a buyer appointment. And I'd like everybody to write down next to buyer appointment these 3 things: highly motivated, realistic, and they have the means. Because so often we call buyers that are not really buyers. They need to be motivated, they need to be realistic, and they have to have the ability to purchase the house, right? So, but A's are listing appointments, buyer appointments, and also negotiating contracts. And I'll add one fourth one. If you're a team leader or a brokerage, it's recruiting appointments. Okay. B are the things that cause A to happen: prospecting and lead follow-up. That's your B activities. C activities are the things in your business that you have to do. You have to put signs up. You have to enter things in the MLS. You got to work on your pendings. These are the C activities. By the way, Dave, all C activities can be delegated. D are the dumb things we do in our business that we should not be doing. Okay. So here's the thing. The more you can leverage your schedule A, B, the more you'll make money. The more customers you'll service, the higher level of real estate you'll sell. And here's the misconception that people have. They think that the more business they do, the harder the business is. I could never sell that many houses because I can't handle where I'm at. The business gets easier when you sell more houses because you get to hire the right people to use leverage that does your C activities, that you can free up your time to do A and B, and you can actually work part-time and make a ton of money. The business actually gets easier the more business you do.
So here is the $64 question.
$64. Okay.
$64.
Yes.
How do you coach through, maybe it's attitude, maybe it's desire, maybe it's, just like passion. How do you coach through the lack thereof? How do you get through to agents that they want to do it and they have the ability to do it, they have the possible passion to do it, but they don't do it? They're distracted, they're procrastinators. So basically, how do you eliminate distractions and change attitude? That's the $64 question.
Well, you have to have 2 people usually to believe in the goal. One is yourself and one is somebody else beside you, right? That's where coaching comes in, or anybody else that you have in your corner, right?
Right.
And I'll go back to it because it's just the principle of the motivation comes from what you're trying to accomplish. If I was working with you, Dave, and you said, hey, I want my wife to retire from work and I want to homeschool my kids and I want to get my house paid off in 4 years. Dave, when you're off of your activities, I can simply say, so Dave, since you said that you wanted your wife to retire, you wanted to do this, you wanted to do that, How are we, where are we at on that right now? Is that still important on a scale of 1 to 10? How important is? Okay,
Right.
so you told me 10. Is your activities in line with that? Are you interested or committed? There's a really good question. Are you interested or are you committed, right? So you're interested or you're committed. Those are two different things. Well, I'm committed. Well, Dave, because you said you're committed, I'm going to recommend that we go back and do what we said we're going to do, right? So it's that conversation that we're having, but we have to focus every day. I start every day at my desk writing down 3 or 4 things I'm blessed about. They change every single day. And then I write every one of my business plans of any business I'm working on. And then I write what I'm trying to accomplish, which is the most important thing, which gives me motivation to execute those business plans every single day with a positive attitude. That morning activity that I do, if I ever miss that, it throws my day off. But I need to focus on what I'm trying to accomplish. And that gets me into motivation to do the things I have to do.
Okay. So committed or interested. As a team leader, one that's grown
Mhm.
great teams,
Yeah.
and you know the thing you said earlier is to over 18 units per person. That is just mind-boggling to me. So how do you get through the interest? How do you get through the interest to the commitment? Is there a bridge, or is it just you are or you aren't?
No, it's usually a process. So, I mean, people say they want to do something, right? Um, Part of that is building out that business plan because once you build the business plan out, you can actually see that the activities that are required are a lot less than you thought they would. It's success comes from doing things, the same things every single day to get you where you want to go, right? And if you realize these are the activities I need to do. So first of all, just breaking it down to the simple is really important. The second thing is just a lot of people will not reach their full potential if they're not exposed to other people that are doing it. That's the reason why on a team it's so important to have the culture of success. I mean, if you think about it, Dave, if you were an agent and let's say you're doing 2, 3 transactions and you join a team where everybody's doing 40, or you join a team where half the agents aren't selling a house, where are you going to be more successful at? So as
Well,
a team leader, it's really important for us to build a culture of success, right? Culture of good people, culture of doing good business. I mean, all that's important, right? But a culture of success, right? And then coaching inside of as a team leader for your coaching your agents, and coaching is not lecturing, it's coaching, where we're talking through things and working with somebody every single week on what you need to do and what's working, what's not. Let's try this. Between those things, average agent production increases. And it's a process, right?
yeah, yeah. So, all right. So, having a coach, that important?
I'm sorry, what?
Is having a coach important, or is it just having I'm going to use the word in a different way, a discipline? And what I mean by that is a structure. Structure, not discipline. Is having a coach important, or is just having the structure you know you're going to follow that is proven and you can model after?
So obviously I'm a coach. I believe in coaching, and this
Right.
isn't because I am a coach, but I've spent my entire years in coaching. And the things that I've accomplished in business has come from obviously my attitude, right? My drive, the things I'm doing, but a lot of it I have to give credit to coaching. I don't know too many highly successful people that don't have coaches. So
Yeah.
success leaves clues. For example, I learned a long time ago, Dave, and this sounds really boring. I go to bed at 8:30 at night and I wake up at 4:30 in the morning. The reason why I do that is because I met other people that were highly successful and they all went to bed at 8:30. So I said, okay, I'm going to go to bed at 8:30 and get up at 4:30. I also know that, and I'm just thinking right now of all the people that I know that are highly successful, not only in real estate, and I'm just thinking through everyone, and I don't know any of them that don't have a coach. So if
Right.
they're having a coach, I would think you have a coach. But um, you know, give you an example of this, and just write down the basics. So, Dave, I am hideous at golf. I'm hideous at golf. So I shoot about an 82.
That's
And
hideous.
that's hideous. That's for 9, Dave. Okay. And I pick up the ball at 10 strokes. Okay. So
Okay.
if I practiced every day, practice makes perfect, would my game get better? And the
Yes.
answer is no, because I'd be practicing bad behaviors.
Ah, got
I
it.
need a coach to tell me how to turn that swing. And I don't desire to golfing at a good way, but if I wanted to, I would get a coach to tell me, hey, don't say it this way, say it that way. Hey, you're sending these mailers out. What if we put this on your mailer? By the way, your goals, are you interested or committed? I need a coach that's going to walk me through, right? And I can tell you it is cheaper hiring a coach than making the mistakes, because I can't tell you how much money I have saved because of coach. You learn quicker because you have a coach. So I firmly believe, and when we talk about team leads, right?
Yep.
A really good team lead is not a team lead, they're a coach. Because that's their job. Their one responsibility is helping their agent reach their goals in life.
I think you just took about 3 or 4 different comments I was going to make about team leaders and stuff and their problems. I mean, I think their basic
Yeah.
problems, you just answered it, is that they're trying to be more of a leader than a coach, and are
Mhm.
more concerned with leading a bunch of people than growing numbers. You know what? That's the old style, in my opinion. That's what I call legacy brokerages. I mean, you can say whatever it is, whatever brokerage you want to talk about, but it was all about numbers, and the numbers had nothing to do with the money. It had to do with the people bringing in, because that would bring the money.
Mhm. Yeah.
Is it difficult to guide someone in a coaching situation rather than just think they can do it on their own? I mean, I know the answer to the question, but we see a lot of people trying to do it on their own. Okay. And we also see a lot. I mean, look, social media is what we all spend a lot of time on. I have gotten to a point where I put my phone down when I walk in the door now, because it's just very distracting. I get distracted all the time. I am Mr. Distraction. I am Mr. Procrastinator, which I work on every day. And there's a lot of people that want to put with social media, they want to get their hands in your pockets. They want to, they've got a lead system. They've got a coaching system. They've got this, they've got that. What's the answer to all the noise that's out there? Is it shut it off, or is that possible coach going to help you? And how do you decipher that? That's a lot. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, a coach is always going to help you, right? And could you do it alone without a coach? Absolutely. But would you do it quicker and actually probably make more money and have less mistakes and didn't waste money on this projects? I mean, how many programs over the year have you bought, Dave? I mean, I know I have, right?
Way too
And
many.
and that's just what it does. You spend money on that, but it sidetracks you and it takes you away from the principle, which is contacts equal contracts,
Right.
right? So it's um yeah, so having a coach definitely, as far as the noise, that's ABCD, right? ABCD. Am I putting my time in A and B and not into D's, the dumb things, right? Am I delegating the C's? I mean, here's the thing, you make enough money, you can hire somebody else to do the things that you could hire cheaper than what you're worth, and also the things you don't want to do. And so therefore you spend your time on the things you want to do and the highly paying activities, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a
So
structure.
it's a structure, and it's also it's a support system in and of itself by you following what you set up. It's support structure, right? Um,
Mhm.
so you've built teams in different areas, and you've gone through. We've both gone through different iterations of markets, different iterations of styles. Um, the team which you just sold, the business you just sold,
Mhm.
compared to before, was there something you did differently when you started building that team from the first time from before?
That's an interesting question. Yes, I just increased the goal and figured out how to do it. Everything I've learned throughout the years, to me, sitting down with a piece of paper. So if we're going to bring it to the most recent, when I wrote down, I'm going to have a team selling 1,000 units a year in 36 months from zero. It sounds impressive, Dave, but if you really think about this, I hired 72 agents in 36 months. Dave, that's 2 agents a month.
Mhm.
That's all it was. So it's breaking things down in the simplicity and then executing them, right? Now, did some months I hired 5? Yes, and some months I had to slow down recruiting, right?
Right.
But the overall plan was just I wrote it down. If you pulled out the plan, which I have recently, and it was like, yes, hit every mark on that because it was 2 agents per month for 36 months, which is 72. And my job as a team lead is to empower the agents to reach their goals in life. And for most people, that number of 18 looked pretty good. And my job is to help them get there. So if I knew if I concentrate on the success of the agents and hired 2 agents per month, I would sell 1,000 houses a year. And that's how simple that was. We overcomplicate things way too much.
Did the recruiting help motivate the agents that were already with the team?
Recruiting is good, right? So recruiting as far as agents that are on the team, first of all, typically in most teams, if the team gets larger, they get a bigger market share. And from a marketing standpoint, when you think of overall marketing,
Right.
companies that reach critical mass is like when you drive off of a highway and you think about a burger, if you like them or not, you think of McDonald's, right? That's what we think of because they have market share. Eventually, when you grow a team large enough, it reaches critical mass and it actually creates a lot of activity. So team members understand that as you grow a company, there's more resources, there's more leads, there's more recognition. It's benefited for everything. But the real value, the other value, Dave, is this. You bring 5 great agents and people that are highly motivated into a company, that increases the energy. So as we grow, energy increases because there's more excitement constantly coming into the company. I mean, a lot of people watching this day probably, possibly, if you're a team lead, you might be sitting on 8 agents. And this is what I hear when I start working with people. I have 8 agents and only one's doing a good job. 7 of them are not. All right. Well, if you brought 5 or 6 great agents in, it would have changed the culture overnight.
Absolutely.
100%. So recruiting is a great thing for culture.
Yeah, that's one thing that one of my coaches has said to me that when I had my brokerage was that recruiting solves all issues. You
And I
know,
don't think it does.
tell me more about that.
Yeah, I don't think it solves all issues because, you know, it, it recruiting doesn't solve operational issues. It might provide you possibly more money. I see these coaching companies or the coaches or people that come out there and say recruiting solves everything. Well, no, recruiting doesn't. Just adding bodies does not. If I add 10 people and the 10 people are not going to be successful, I'm bringing down the culture in my company. What solves everything, what I really think from a team perspective, we're going to talk about building teams. There's
Hmm.
3 things, Dave, we work on. And,
Okay.
and, and the first thing is the amount of agent recruiting. That's number 1. Number 2 is scaling agents, getting them to increase their production, right? Helping them reach their goals. And 3 is the operations to support our clients and our agents. Those are the 3 things we work on: recruiting, scaling, and operations. Now, of those 3, just kind of curious, which one do you, there's no wrong answer, so I'm putting you on the spot here. Which one do you think is the most important out of recruiting, scaling, or operations?
I'm going to tell you from experience, it's going to be operations and not having to do with onboarding as well.
And like I said, there's no wrong answer. This is just my opinion. I think it's scaling. And the reason why, if you think about this, let's start this off here. I'm going to say I'm really passionate about this stuff.
Right.
So, first of all, you have an agent who's thinking about joining a company, right? They
Right.
have 2 companies. Let's visualize this. They have 2 companies. One company, everybody's selling transactions. Nobody on the team has not sold at least 10 houses. They're just rocking it. Another company over here, half the agents haven't sold any. Maybe one agent's doing a lot, but half hasn't sold, and the other ones are doing small. If you are an agent that wants to kill it, which company are you going to go to? You're going to go to
Yeah.
the company that everybody's killing it. Now,
Right.
if you're the hobbyist, I want to just have some fun and maybe sell a house or so. You are going to avoid that company like a
Right.
plague and you're going to go over
Right.
here. So recruiting, and this is really important to understand, recruiting is a natural progression of a great running team. Recruiting is a natural progression of a great running team. If you have a great running team, recruiting starts to happen. But if I can scale my agents and everybody sees the success, it attracts agents. And when I talk to other agents in recruiting, I can say, see what Sally just did last month? I
Right.
have a track record.
Right.
So scaling causes recruiting. And when you put those two together, we have revenue, and we have revenue, we can invest in the great people to run our operations.
So,
Scaling to me is the most important.
so what separates the team that scales from the team that just turns over,
What
transactions and does business? What separates them?
Well, the one thing that separates, and this is what we just started talking about, there's so many people that said recruiting is the answer to everything. No, recruiting is not the answer. It's one of the three things, but it has to be a balanced approach, right? Operations, scaling, and recruiting. And they forget that they have to have great operations and they have to scale their agents. If you're not going to scale your agents, you're not going to have a successful team, flat out, period, right? So the second thing is it's about that systems of success. So if I want my agents to succeed, I have to understand why they want to succeed. Not
Right.
I tell them, hey, you need to sell. Too many companies have minimum standards, and they should have minimum standards. So I'm not taking that back. I should correct what I just said, but they focus on the minimum standards. The minimum standards should be there, but they should focus on what the agent's trying to accomplish, not what they want the agents to accomplish. It's all about the goal and getting your agents to produce to help them with their goals in life. That is that answer to building a team.
So could you define what you mean by standards? Because a lot of people will look at standards as numbers of transactions, etc. Could you
Mhm.
define for us what your definition of standards is for the teams you've built?
Well, standard, first of all, you're going to have a high level of standards of customer service. So that really comes down to the type of person. So when we are recruiting, if somebody's listening here and they're really good at listing appointments, they understand when they go on a listing appointment, they're not being interviewed, they're actually interviewing the client, right? So when I do a recruiting appointment, I'm interviewing the individual to find out if they fit the culture. And one of the high levels of culture is just exceptional customer service. You want your company to kind of like, I'm a little bit of a hotel snob at this point in my life. And I like Ritz-Carlton. I like the Four Seasons. If you run your company like the Ritz-Carltons and Four Seasons, you're going to be successful, right? So the culture of service has to be there, the individual, right? So that's one of the standards. One of the standards has to be professionalism. I mean, somebody that returns phone calls, somebody that's going to be available, somebody that's going to write a good contract. Quite frankly, somebody that admits it when they make a mistake and asks for help. That's a standard of professionalism. You have to have a standard of desire. When I recruit, the one thing, the biggest thing I look for, other than the type of person, right? I look for, do they have grit? Because I can train a lot of things, but I can't train grit. Do they want it, right? So that's important. In the
So
company, we have a minimum standards. The company I just sold, we had a minimum standards of 10 transactions. You have to close at least 10 transactions to be part of this. We will do everything, Dave, to help you get there. We have the systems. You see everybody else doing it. But we do have a minimum standards of 10 transactions. That's just because we're a culture of success, and I have to protect that for my other agents.
understood. So you mentioned the word grit, which is something that a lot of people use. Can you
Mhm, yeah.
define that? Can you give me an example of that? Can you give me an explanation of how one uses grit to grow, how one uses grit to just, get rocking and rolling?
Yeah. So questions, I mean, there's a question that I'm going to ask somebody when I do an interview, when I'm trying to decide if somebody has a grit or not. I'm going to ask them ultimately, if everything was aligned in life perfectly, where do you see yourself at in 5 years from now? How important is? Tell me more about that. I'm going to really try to figure out if they have a visualization of where they want to go. If they have absolutely no visualization where they want to go, then they probably don't have grit. I'm also going to ask them can you tell me some point in your life that you were up against obstacles and you just powered through it and you were able to accomplish something? And they're going to give me a story about something they've done in the past. And I'm like, that person has grit. We find out by asking questions, because when we ask questions, we're building rapport, which is important. I'm learning about you, but I'm also getting information, and I'm
Right,
trying to find out if that person has grit or
right,
not.
right,
And a lot of people on teams don't have grit. Therefore, the production stays low, affects the culture, affects recruiting, affects the growth of the company.
Is it something where you can just, nothing gets in your way? Is it something like, you can you can push through roadblocks and jump over fences that are put in your way? Is that part of what grit really is?
To a point, but whenever I hear that kind of statement, I start thinking somebody that's nothing gets in their way. Yes, there are things that get in our way because we need to be professional and do the right job, right? So they're within reason, right? There are some people out there, no matter what, I'm going to step on whoever I need to get there. That's not grit,
Right.
right?
Right.
But other than that, yes, it's somebody that's going to do. I'm looking for grit when I do interviews, without a question.
So one of the things that I've seen that is really a huge problem in our business. I mean, if you look back at, I think one of the stats was, I don't know if it was last year, or the year before, where over 70% of agents, realtors did not do a transaction.
Mhm.
Uh, and I think some of those people, aside from the ones that didn't want to, that just have a license, some of those people got in their own way. I see that a lot, right? They have this disease called getting ready to get ready. Is it because they don't want to do it? And how do you get through and how do you help someone get out of their own way?
Yeah, well, the 70% of people that haven't sold a transaction yet, they really didn't want to sell a transaction because there's transactions available, right? They
Right.
just they have their license. It's cool to have my real estate license. I call myself a realtor, whatever the reason is. So
Yes.
I don't even consider themselves real estate agents
Right.
because they're not selling houses, right?
Right.
So, but your question is how to get somebody to get out of their own way.
Yes.
That's that coaching. Because I can, as a coach, not as the person, I can recognize when somebody's in their own way, and with a series of questions I can ask them that they will then, I'm causing the problem. My job is to help them realize, right? What, just asking certain questions. Well, tell me about that. I mean, what could you have done differently? If you weren't doing that, what would you do differently at this point? Oh, you would do that. And if we did that, just a series of questions.
Yeah.
And the light bulb goes off and they say, oh, if I did this, then that would happen. Yeah, it would. Right. So that's that coaching element.
So we're coming up against time, and I apologize I have not hit this. Talk to me
Mhm.
about Engagify Marketing, which is your marketing company.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So Engagify Marketing, Engagify Marketing is where it's not there's a lot of AI companies out there and there's a lot of VA companies out there. We're not
Right.
an AI, we're not a VA company.
Right.
We actually embed a marketing system into somebody's real estate company. And we've heard for years, for example, everybody needs to produce video. But if you don't know
Right.
what to do with the video is useless, right? I mean, some people are going to see the video for sure. But
Right.
Engagify Marketing uses, and I'll just give an example. Easy Play. Easy Play. If you want all your past clients and sphere of influence to see you all the time, okay? This would be like a playbook, for example. I love the company Keeping Current Matters. So plug
Yep.
out to Keeping Current Matters. No,
Awesome.
I would on Meta, I would post on Monday. I would post a Keeping Current Matters. On Tuesday, I post a video. And my video, I'm going to put $5 a day behind this video, and I'm going to run it for a whole week, and I'm going to use a custom audience. And a custom audience, and I'm just giving you one example, right? So custom audience is where we upload the database into Meta, and we're going to run an ad at that video at our past client sphere of influence and database. So they see it all the time. Wednesday, I'm going to do a Keeping Current Matters. Thursday, I'm going to release another video and I'm going to run a $5 a day. So everybody's seeing 2 videos now. And then
Mhm.
Friday, I'm going to do a Keeping Current Matters. And then on Friday, I'm going to do an email that's a template that puts all 3 Keeping Current Matters and puts my, this is the easiest playbook if anybody ever wants to run this, and put my 2 videos, and I'm going to send that email out on the weekend, over the weekend. That playbook using custom audiences inside of Facebook, not Facebook, but Meta, which is Instagram and Facebook, right?
Right.
Will cause everybody to see it. Now, I also know every time I post something, I should be posting on my Google business page. So that gets automatically posted on the Google business page, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The other thing that's happening is the video then goes into my YouTube channel into different categories, but I also make it a YouTube short. And when it goes into YouTube short, Dave, that is when you go into Google right now, because Google owns YouTube.
Right.
And when you ask in the AI, who's the top producing real estate agent, AI is actually looking at who's got the YouTube shorts. So when we do YouTube Shorts, and this changes all the time, but right now YouTube Shorts have a huge play on the algorithm for AI to tell you. So that is just a simple play. That play is done by hardly anybody in real estate. So we build landing pages every single week that have downloadable guides that are lead captures. We basically build everything out, and we give you the coaching, the strategies, we give you the personnel, the team, and we do it cheaper than what you could possibly do it on your own. So it's engagifymarketing.com.
Great. Nelson, would you please put that up, please? Engagifymarketing.com. So, all right. So we've reached our time, and I think this has been one of the greatest episodes, simply because we broke down things in a very, I don't think there's anything. I think this business is a simple business, but it's very difficult. And I think what you've done, David, and what you've been able to do is you've been able to bridge the difficult with the simple, right? And how you approach it and how you do it with your coaching. If I was to ask you, well, I'm going to ask you, you're a new agent, you want to get started, what steps should they take?
Well, first of all, the very first step is stop believing you're a new agent, because it's irrelevant to any. Stop believing you're a new agent, because it's irrelevant to anything. I mean, you probably have a broker or a team leader or somebody that will help you with contracts. You're not a new agent. Just go out and get business. Second thing, understand conversations equal contracts, and don't get confused from that. If you have enough conversations, you will get things done. Third thing is build that business plan. Literally build a business plan and figure out what you want out of life, and have somebody help you with this. And backwards engineer that business plan down to how many transactions I need to do, because that's going to give you the focus to keep you motivated, right? And then it comes down to your activities, and you need to build out your ABCD in your schedule, understanding that there's 3 things that we have control over: attitude, schedule, and skill. And work very hard at your skill, right? At your skill, come into every day with great attitude. But we all need to pay attention to our schedule, and our schedule should be based on building conversations and not getting lost in all the noise that's in the business.
I think that was great. That was fantastic. Hey, man, I want to thank you so much for being on this broadcast today.
My pleasure.
I just got 2 quick things left. One is a question, one is a comment. How do I help you grow your business?
How do you help me grow my business?
I help you grow your business. Yep. Dave Fanale.
Well, it's just at this point in my career, when I started coaching, and I love coaching with Bill Pipes, talking about skill, he is the best skill in the entire industry, without a question. I met him back in the 90s, and he's helped me tremendously with my business over the years. But I just enjoy helping people. That's the reason why I am a coach. If somebody's interested in taking up coaching, my name is David, and it's david@coachpipes.com. Send me an email and we can have a conversation.
Awesome. I want to thank you so much for being on. And last but not least,
I get a hat.
Yep. Pipes, I think I'll have 3 of them in the next week, and this is your first. So I want to thank you so much for coming on. Please stay on as we go off. Next week, we've got Kayla Laos coming on. Kayla is the co-founder of Zoodelio and CEO of JK Realty out in Arizona. She is really awesome. You're going to love talking. We're going to love talking with her. I can't wait. Again, thank you so much, David, for being on today. And you know what? Just stand as we go out.